starting to be the end of the season for 2022. Got some gorgeous leaf changing colors. Our sugar maple up here is still pretty green, but we're expected to get down to 37 is what the weather's calling for a couple nights, Sunday and Monday. And so our garden, little bunny running away. Our garden will get hit probably pretty hard because we're up in the elevation. So usually when we're a couple degrees colder, at least, than down in town. So I wanted to go through and do kind of one big final tour of our raised bed garden. And then I'm going to harvest a ton. So we'll have a couple different videos coming out this weekend probably. But I will keep some of these flowers in here. The honeybees have been still coming to the alyssum and the ageratum. The tomatoes on this cage, I'll probably just go through and pick anything that's starting to turn color and leave what's not, and if it makes it, great. This is on the northeast corner, I guess you could say. This is the east side of the garden, so it does get early sun, which might help it. And beans, I need to come in and pick the rest of the green beans and then pick the dried ones as well for seeds for next year. We do have peas, so planted these a little bit late. Actually, Jace helped plant these, and so I'm going to keep those and see what they are able to do. I'm not going to take those out yet. And I've got a cucamelon, a little late to the game. I don't know where he's gone, somewhere in there, into the tomato mess. I haven't seen any actual cucamelons, but kind of funny seeing that he's finally getting going now. Probably won't get any fruit from that this year. You can see we still have quite a few tomatoes in here in the tunnel. I did pick a bunch of beans and freeze more for the dogs. We'll probably be putting those in our new freeze dryer actually, so we'll start a new playlist for the freeze dryer pretty quick here. And then I have these other late cucumbers. You can kind of see there's a cucumber down there. It's starting. Not sure if that will get big enough. I believe that's the salt and pepper one. So this is the 2 of the 8-in-1 tall Birdies beds put together with 4 of the 16-foot cattle panels. And the cattle panels are put down into the beds with T-posts. Makes a really clean look. From a growing perspective, we had plenty of grow space with this tunnel. I need to get Jace to help put this one away. It'll probably go in the shed for the winter until we can figure out our placement of where we want them. The watermelon are pretty much dead that came out. We picked all of the watermelon, I think, at this point. I didn't see any more. Got some carrots in here that are starting to take off now that I picked or cut the broccoli. We will do a bit of the no-dig methods again this year, where a lot of things we won't actually pull up out of the dirt, so that will be good there. And that's mostly for just keeping the beds good, and you can see how the soil settles. So we will, in the spring, we'll kind of loosen up this soil just with a fork, and then add compost up to the rim again, and then plant everything from there. Things like this parsley, I may actually transplant that into the hoop house so that we can continue to have a bunch of parsley. We've got a lot of celery. I think we're going to try to make some celery salt again this year, but maybe do it in the freeze dryer. It worked really well actually in the oven last year, so we'll see. On the status, I've started making some wreaths out of So I'm excited to come back, and I need to pick the rest of this here. There's some more celery. This is probably one of the smaller ones we have. I'm a little late to pick the beans. So we may have some volunteers next year on the tunnel. Not a big deal. This is some of the late broccoli I planted. I can't remember the name. I'll have to look that up. It's a 35-day broccoli, but it is getting eaten, as you can tell. So I'm not sure we'll actually get some of that. The stock that I planted in the spring has come back and had a couple offshoots, which makes for some nice flowers for late season. I let the lettuce bolt in a couple places. Get some fun flowers doing that. I haven't tried saving lettuce seeds, so that'll be interesting. Got more status and more celery and parsley back here somewhere. And then this is an osteospermum, or an African daisy. So overall, tunnel's doing pretty well. And we'll see how much keeps going. A couple things I'll probably cut and move, harvest some of the stuff, but not a huge change for that bed. So this 8-in-1 tall Birdies bed has 32 bell peppers in it, and then it has some onions and lettuce, and some lettuce I let bolt on the corner here. Most of these peppers, oh, and some basil, as you can tell, see right here in front of me, marigolds, and ageratums, and probably some other things too. But the main crop here, the peppers, there are mostly ace bells. There are some California wonders, and then there are, I think just this one mislabeled picnic pepper. And so this bed has produced a lot, and I will probably do another whole video of just the peppers. As we get later in the season, my peppers tend to get smaller because I stopped pruning them as much. And you can tell that they had some good winds, and definitely got a little cold here for these. Here's the California Wonder style. But we will have a pretty large harvest, I think, today or tomorrow, picking the majority of these peppers. There's still some definite decent size. Most of these run around 5 ounces or so, to give you an idea. But I did have one that was, I think, over a pound. It was the largest one this year. It was a massive California Wonder. So as we're going through here, we will harvest all of these, and we'll just trim the plants down to the soil. And do the same thing that I mentioned in the tunnel bed, where next year we'll loosen up the soil a little bit with a fork, like a broad fork style, and just a little bit, and then add compost up to the edge and replant. And I'll continue to add fertilizers and things like that as well. We do try to follow organic practices the best we can. We won't knowingly put any non-OMRI things into our garden. But the exciting thing, though, is with our freeze dryer is pepper chips are supposedly really, really good. So we're going to plan on freeze drying a bunch of these bell peppers. We've already have close to 28 or 30 packs of about 6-ounce weight bags that we've vacuum sealed in the freezer for things like fajitas, chili, steak and cheese, right? All those wonderful things. So again, I think last year we had about 55 pounds total out of this bed. I think we're actually over that this year. So I will do a separate video about harvesting this bed and with all the weights for the whole year. I know we didn't weigh every single pepper that came out of here, but we did pretty well with weighing things this year. So stay tuned for that. These next 3 beds I'm going to go through really quickly because there's only these few little lettuce plants in them. These were sweet potatoes, regular potatoes in these 2 middle beds and in this bed. And now I have some lettuce growing just in the corner here. I just stuck that in quickly before I had space for it anywhere else. And the last bed back there, I do have the carrots and some more lettuce. This is a 9-in-1, so you'll notice that this is slightly smaller, as well as that one's a 9-in-1 than the rest of the 8-in-1s. So these baby carrots, we planted them a little later than I wanted, but they are doing pretty well. And I think there's 2 different types here. This back patch I think is a different type. So these are storage carrots, so we'll see how they do and how long I can keep them going. I do have hoops, just like the ones over that bed right there, that we can put here. And I do have more extra greenhouse plastic if we need it, as well as frost cloth. So ideally I would have planted these the end of August, and I think I ended up planting these like end of the first week of September or so, somewhere in there. I can't remember exactly. So they are a little later than I want them to be. And of course we have the baby lettuce here, but let's see if I can. There's definitely some good growth there. I don't want to mess with the roots too much. They're a 56-day, I think, carrot. So it might be Danvers, I can't remember exactly. But even if we end up with baby carrots, absolutely fine. The goal will be to also potentially freeze dry some of these. But I do have some larger carrots growing in some of these other beds that will be more full size. So we can do some carrot chips in the freeze dryer also. This little bed is a 6-in-1. If you watch Kevin at Epic Gardening, this is one of the sizes that he, I think, has mostly of in his little front garden, in the original garden at his old place. I have harvested the big broccoli out of here already and a bunch of the beets. I did put some of the smaller broccoli in here, and so we've got a couple pieces here. I kind of put them in a couple different beds. And then we've got the Brussels sprouts, which I probably need to spray with BT. We are still having worm problems, as you can tell from how bad the leaves are. I got a little behind here. So we'll see if these are too buggy for me or not, and for Jace. And then I have some beets still down in there that we'll harvest pretty quick here. The sugars actually should really like the cold, similar to the carrots. The cold really helps the sugars in those root veggies. This bed is the Cayenne Pepper Bed, mostly. There should be about 15 cayenne peppers plants in here. There's some carrots, there's some ageratum, the purple flowers you'll see. There's some status in here. I think there's even some onions. There's some lettuce that I let bolt. You can see the lettuce flowers here. I kind of like these ones. It's a little more purple lettuce. The cayenne peppers have done really well. We have gallon bags of them. Jay's already made some fermented hot sauces as well, and so we've got more to do. And we'll also, I think, either dehydrate or freeze dry. We're gonna make a bunch of red pepper flake again and red pepper powders. You see some really beautiful carrots kind of intermixed into this bed, and more celery. And then on the end here, we have some of the ancho giganteums. They're like basically large poblanos, although I think my regular poblanos might be bigger than these. And then two Thai chili plants here. So this 8-1, definitely, again, high producer, did pretty well. I will say on all of these beds, I slacked a lot on our fertilizer plan. Last year I did every 2 weeks and it worked really well. This year I didn't keep up with that with an all-purpose, and I definitely saw a bit of a difference in some of the leaves and the bugs. Bugs will really try to attack plants that are not as healthy. And so they're going to find the weakest link in your gardens. And so what I was seeing was a little bit more of instead of a patch of bugs here or there on a not healthy plant, I was seeing them a little bit more intermixed across all of the plants because everything was just doing okay. I definitely feel like I didn't, if I was to grade myself, didn't do the best I could do, but with time and busy schedules and everything else, still a high producing garden, and still putting a lot of food away for the winter, where we get to eat our own produce and be self-sufficient on peppers and tomatoes, as well as a few other things, so, which has always been the goal. So overall, still success. I'm gonna walk over to the well, I have 2 more pepper beds, I guess. This bed has poblanos, which I was saying, and the other bed. So as they ripen red, I pick them and put them into the dehydrator, and those then become anchos. We dry a lot of this. This bed is really for drying things. We eat them fresh as well. We do love poblanos. And with the green ones, when I pick them here this weekend, I may end up making a bunch of sauce and freezing or canning some of the poblano salsa or salsa verdes that we really like. This bed has a bunch of onions in there and carrots and guajillos also, these long ones. And when these turn red, we dehydrate these also. We just made a really good beef tacos with guajillo recipe from Rick Bayless. So as they ripen like this, we'll pick these and put them in the dehydrator whole until they're like feel thin-walled and rubbery, and not mushy. And at that point, we put them in the pantry and cook with them. So these did pretty well. The thing most people are really surprised with is how much of a tree trunk I get on these, and that's a lot of it is from pruning and making sure that the growth is really focused on the top of the plant. And you can overwinter your peppers. I didn't have very good luck on it, and I don't really want to deal with the bugs because I start so many seeds inside. So we'll see. I do have celery. This is actually, I think this is celery root, so celery rack, maybe? I can't tell. Maybe this is a normal one. I thought there was one of these was. I'll show you guys behind me in this other bed quickly. So this is a celery root here, and it makes this ball at the bottom, and it's kind of like a potato almost, but it has a really nice faint celery flavor. And you can make, you can actually add it to your mashed potatoes. You can do a bunch of stuff with it. Make like celery root or celery rack fries, delicious. So we did grow some of those. These 3 actually had gotten eaten by the bunnies, and I moved them up to this bed. I may move these into the hoop house to continue growing them, but I'm not sure yet. So still deciding. They'll be good outside for probably another couple weeks before we actually get a real bad freeze. The snapdragons are doing pretty well. I did do some cuttings recently of those. I've got this one amaranth hanging down over here. The basil's pretty much gone by on most of the beds now. I have the Torahina cherry. It's really pretty much dead at this point. I mean, it's alive and it's fruiting, but the fruit are cracking and splitting and getting scarring before I can pick them. So this bed is pretty much mostly done. There's some onions in here, some basil that's pretty much done, and then a really nice batch of parsley, and then the alyssum. Over here, this is another bed that's pretty much done. These beds were the ones that had the San Marzanos, the paste tomatoes that I took out. You can see I just cut the stems here. So this one's trying to regrow. So again, basil's pretty much done. We've got some of the more of that 35 or 36 day broccoli. Snapdragons are coming back from earlier in the season. The celery root that I just showed you, and then a bunch of carrots here. I wish you guys could smell this pepper that I'm carrying around because it smells really good. I'm gonna want that for lunch. Over here, I still have the 2-ounce tomato bed going. So these are clementines and mountain magics. They're orange and red 2-ounce tomatoes. Got some more of the broccoli, the short day broccoli, or short days to maturity broccoli. Alyssum, some weeds. Basil's pretty much gone by. An onion I need to pick. Parsley. Pretty nice marigold on this bed. These will probably come out as well as all of the tomatoes right behind it, which I will get to in just a second. But the tomatoes we'll put onto the blue bread totes and put them on the porch out in the sun to finish hopefully ripening. With that, we will also have covers to be able to cover them when we're not, when we know we're going to have a really cool night, or bring them in. Over here, I've got the baby beets, but they didn't really grow very well, so I'm kind of disappointed. Those started the same time as the carrots, actually maybe even earlier. It's the carrots in that bed over there, so kind of disappointed. I was hoping to have some good beet greens by now, so I'm not sure what to do there. I do have a bunch of parsley and some celery behind it. Another poblano, pepperoncinis. I thought I wasn't going to get many more, but actually there's quite a few. And jalapenos and serranos as well. So still have stuff to pick out of this bed. This one I may try to tent to keep the beet greens going and see if I can add a few more of the winter stuff, since it's one of the closer beds to the house. See if I can keep that going there. Got the baby lettuce in this bed too, I forgot to mention. And the spinach, which also didn't do as great as I'd wanted. So I'm a little bummed about that. And this bed back here also has the red Russian kale and lettuce. This pepper bed is mostly sweet and fun peppers. So we've got a lot of the picnic peppers here. They're kind of small. This is about full size. These are the picnic peppers here. We have a red picnic and an orange picnic. And they are so heavy. I hope you'll be able to see this. How many there are here. Let's see if I can pick this one. So here's a red one. We've got orange one somewhere in here too. And I've got snapdragons. I actually did some cuttings from over here yesterday. Then I have, this is a California Wonder Bell, Sweet Bell. And I have escamillos, which I did just pick like 7 or 8 from. Escamillos are a sweet pepper. They're really big and long, and they turn a yellow-orange. This one's much oranger than the others that I have growing. But harvested quite a bit of escamillos this year, actually. First year growing them. I didn't notice a huge flavor difference between that and the bells, but I also don't eat peppers raw, so that might be a bigger difference for that. I do have a few cayenne peppers on the end here, and I have a celery root that's really gorgeous. It will be harvesting pretty quick here. And I have carrots. So, nice snack here. And a couple guajillos. So, lots of fun peppers in this bed. I will be harvesting this one along with the rest of the peppers. So this is our super long Birdies bed. It is 4 8-in-1 low 8-in-1s put together. We've added a bunch of extra supports. It's about 27 feet long, and Jace built me this lower and lean trellis over it. Got the spools from Johnny Select Seeds, and I've lower and leaned these tomatoes quite a bit actually, so I'm going to show you guys that in just a second here. In this bed, besides this pretty awesome lime green zinnia that I put in last minute here, we had a whole 4 rows of onions down the center here. Most of those have been harvested. Parsley. This whole corner had been basil. You can kind of see I chopped a lot of that down already. The entire edges on this side and the other side were alyssum, purple and white, kind of mixed in between. And more onions along the whole outsides. And then I also had snapdragons in here. You can see this one is budding right now. And I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, and I had some celery, which got eaten. But then also I have this celery here, which is just huge. I've got 2 massive bunches of celery on this bed. I am having some critter issues. I think they're moles that have been digging through and eating a lot of the tomatoes as they start to ripen. So I will be harvesting these pretty quick here. And I did clean up a lot of the alyssum that was giving them a lot of extra ground cover. Pretty sure there's a nest right there. I try to be pretty tolerant of pests in the gardens, but this is a little excessive, and they kept on eating my drip tape too, which isn't making me very happy. So the sooner I clear out this bed, the sooner I can potentially make sure that they know that this isn't the most welcome home, because I'm not going to feed them all winter long. So hopefully they'll move out. There are a few other techniques we can try that are no harm techniques, so we'll see how much we need to go to. What I did want to show you guys is how long these tomatoes actually are. So this tomato is rooted down here. You can see that in the ground there. And it comes up here. And if we follow this, it continues all the way up to here. You can see that little bunch down there. It's decently grown. This one is one of the shorter ones, I think, actually. I just randomly picked. This is probably about 5 feet roughly on the ground, and then another 3-4 feet up. So not a huge, really long one, but definitely pretty healthy overall. You can see some of the leaves did get some burning from the cold the other night. I think over here on the north end of this bed got hit the worst. But I will be coming in and harvesting all of the tomatoes and then cutting all of the tomatoes at the ground level. And trying to get these to ripen. I only need about 20 more pounds of tomatoes to do the canning that I have left, but we do want to try freeze drying tomato chips, and so in order to do that we need a lot of tomatoes that are ripe. We also have the tomatoes in the hoop house, so there is plenty left in theory to do. But you can tell, I mean, got a lot of tomatoes still, so I keep going back and forth on when to harvest or not. I've got a fun caterpillar over here. I should probably learn my caterpillars better. I never really know what is what. Let's see. So yeah, so as we go through here, here's another caterpillar for you guys. Got a lot of cleanup to do for the fall. Best to do this now instead of in the spring because they get really soggy. But again, I'm not going to be pulling up roots out of these beds besides the onions. So most of this will be not fully disturbed going into the winter. If I can, I may actually add some more compost onto this bed before, so I can plant early in the spring and not have to add as much in the springtime. That is the full tour before I finish the big harvest of the peppers and tomatoes. We'll still do a couple more tours as we have carrots and celery and beets and lettuce and spinach and stuff out here. But I wanted to make sure that you guys got to see how we progressed through the seasons. Hopefully you guys will be interested in seeing more content on the freeze dryer. We've got a lot more mill content coming. And I still need to do the video about all the ways I preserve and use the produce that we grow. And then I also want to do a video. I have the total weights of our harvests, and we are over 675 pounds. I think it's like 678 and change that I've weighed. I've got a whole bunch of onions that are now dried that I haven't even weighed yet. And that doesn't even include our maple syrup that we technically harvested off the property. So just for this season, that's 678 is not bad. And when you count the rest of these tomatoes and the peppers, I'm pretty excited.